Hey team! Thank you for joining me on Accepting the Call to Change podcast, where we discover opportunities to invite growth and change into our lives. Alrighty team, welcome. I'm excited to have you all here today. Now this episode, we are going to dive a little bit deeper into my story, and we're going to kind of go back to the beginning of some of the first experiences that I had that I can remember happening that led to me and my path of having an eating disorder. So we're just going to jump right into it. If you want to appreciate my headset again, you can, because it's cute and I still feel like a little pilot. But yeah, let's just dive right in. So my path that led me to having an eating disorder, it didn't just happen overnight. It wasn't just like something that I just decided to do. It was like, oh, okay, let me just like have an eating disorder real quick. It was certain experiences happened that created pathways in my brain from the way that I felt, and I didn't really know how to fully process the emotions that I was feeling when these certain experiences happened. And because of these experiences and because of these pathways that were formed in my brain, it led to me gaining bad habits and different coping mechanisms that weren't the healthiest. And my view on myself and the way that I talked about myself became very negative at a very young age. So I'm going to share some of these experiences with y'all. But before I do, I just want to let you guys know how important it is to realize how amazing our bodies are. Our bodies are, if not the greatest gift, are one of the greatest gifts that we have from God. And as a society, I feel like we don't always treat them that way. Whether we are putting harmful substances into our bodies, or if we're working them too hard, or we're not feeding them or watering them enough or getting enough sleep, or whether we're talking negatively about our bodies, or we're like, whatever it is that is not respecting our bodies, it is disrespecting one of the greatest gifts that we have from our loving Heavenly Father. And so, before I dive into this episode, it is so important to understand how amazing our bodies are and how much they do for us and how well they work with us. And we're going to kind of get into this a little bit later into the episode. So I'm going to kind of share some experiences with y'all that happened when I was younger. So when I was probably 7, my family and I were celebrating one of our stillborns' birthdays, one of my mom's stillborns that she had. We celebrate their birthdays every year, and so this year we were celebrating one of them. And we had some family friends come over, and my sister and I were really good friends with these two daughters, and my mom was like besties with the mom. And so we were just always hanging out together, and it was a good time. And so they came over, and we were sitting at my counter in the kitchen, the 4 girls, my sister and I, and then the 2 other girls, and we were eating cake and ice cream, having a little party, and my mom and her friend were standing on the other side of the counter, and I noticed my mom, she just like had her hand out and was just like staring at her hand, and I was like, what is she doing? Like little 7-year-old me, I was like, why is she examining her hand like that? Does she have like an owie or something? Like, is something bothering her? I don't know what she's doing. And so I just kept watching her, and all of a sudden she says, sometimes I wish my fingers or the rest of my body was as skinny as my fingers are. And I was like, what? Like, little 7-year-old Hannah brain imagined then at that point just like my mom as like a finger. I was like, I don't think you want to look like a finger. Like, that would be pretty silly. But the more I thought about it, and I realized as she kept talking, as she just went on to explain, she's like, my fingers are just so skinny, and I'd love it if the rest of my body was that skinny. And I was like, oh, so like it's a good thing to be skinny. Like, I need to make sure that I'm staying skinny because like my mom, like I just had this image in my brain that we needed to be skin and bone, as her fingers were skin and bone. And so she was like, that's just how she wants her fingers to look. And that's how she wants her body to look. And so I was like, okay, so that's how my body needs to look. So then when I was in about 4th grade, it was it was a rainy day and it was pretty cold. And the next day was supposed to be cold as well. And for some reason, little 4th grade me did not have any pants. And I just had like shorts and capris and like skirts, if y'all remember skirts. And I was like, I do not want to wear capri pants or shorts or a skirt to school tomorrow because I want warm legs. And so I was like, at like 8:30 p.m. The stores close at 9, okay? At 8:30 p.m., I go into my parents' room and I was like, hey, team, so I need some pants because I'm out of pants. Like, I don't have any pants. And so I was like, can we go to the store and get some? And my parents, like, I could tell were a little frustrated. Like, you're asking at 8:30 p.m., the stores close at 9. Like, do you need to have pants for tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I'm just trying to be warm. Like, I want to have pants to wear tomorrow. And so they're like, okay, fine, let's go to the store. So Mom Alicia and Father Trent, we piled in the car and we drove to the outlets to go to Maurice's. That was my favorite store, guys. When I was younger, I love Maurice's. And so we drive and we get there and we park, and I was sitting in the middle in the back seat, and then it was just my mom and dad. And my mom was like, okay, do you have like a game plan? Because like we don't have long before the stores close, and I don't want them to have to stay like super long after. She's like, do you know what kind of pants you want? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I was just thinking like maybe skinny jeans or something. And my mom looks back at me and she says, Hannah, you will never fit into skinny jeans. And team, I don't know what happened in my brain or my body. I just like could not like fathom what was going on inside of me, but I had like this massive pit in my stomach. I was trying so hard not to cry. I got all shaky and I felt as though I could just like fall apart at any point. And I was at that age where I was so aware of my body and how like I was starting to be more aware of my body and starting to compare myself to other girls my age. And I just felt like the one woman that I looked up to didn't think that I was enough. And anyway, after that, we go in the store. I get my pants. Don't even remember what pants I got, but the ladies that helped us were super nice. And then I had warm legs for the next day of school. And so I just want to go, as I talked about these pathways that were formed in my brain earlier, they form when certain experiences happen and when certain feelings come up, and then those feelings come up again. So that way that I felt was the way that I felt when I was sitting in that car. That was the way that I felt when my mom was like, "Oh, I want skinny body just like my fingers." And I just want to make a note that you're going to hear a lot of stories from me that I shared that may not always be exactly what was said, but it is how I interpreted it. So whether my mom said that exact thing or not, that I would never fit into skinny jeans, I don't remember, but that is how I interpreted it. because of the emotions and the experiences that I was already having in my life at the time. And so that's how I interpreted what she said. Interactions that we have with people based on where we're at with our experiences and emotions, sometimes what the people say and how we understand what they're saying aren't always the same. So with that being said, I'm going to move on to another experience that happened. And this was consistently throughout my childhood that happened. I always remember my parents trying diet after diet with different exercises, and I always remember them talking about the diet and being like, oh, this diet isn't working, this exercise isn't working, I'm not losing any weight. Or they would be like, oh, I can't eat that because I have to stick to the diet. Or, oh, I shouldn't have another brownie because I already had one and I gotta like stick to my diet. And so I grew up believing that you have to stick to a diet and to a certain exercise, and you have to look a certain way in order to be happy and comfortable in your own skin. That's how I interpreted my parents going through the whole motions of diet and exercising and it not working time and time again. And so I truly believed that I have to do all these things so that my body can be good enough, so that people will accept me because of the way that I look, and that I have to do these things to be accepted by society. Um, and so there were comments made by not only my parents and my siblings, but strangers in grocery stores, my friends, even at a young age in elementary school. Um, and leaders and just peers, people I was surrounded by. I heard comments all the time, and comments like, ah, I hate my belly, or if only I was a couple sizes smaller, I would fit into these jeans, or my arms are too big, they don't fit in my jacket or my shirts like they used to, or I hate my curves, or I have too big of boobs or too small of boobs. My double chin is disgusting. Like, I would hear comments like that every single day, all the time, in various different places. And so, in my brain, I again was like, okay, I have to look this way in order to like myself, but also in order for other people to like me. Um, So, and when people would make comments like that, it would take me back to the way that I felt in the car, sitting in the car, and the way that I felt sitting at my kitchen counter. Um, so now I'm a fast forward to high school. Now in high school, I had a friend group that I absolutely adore, and we all dance. So we would go into the dance room, and there was this massive mirror on the front wall and then on the side wall as well. And so while you're dancing, you got to watch your technique, and you got to, in order to stay on beat and like follow make sure you're like in sync with other people, using the mirror helps sometimes with that. And so there's these massive mirrors, so you're just constantly looking in the mirror. And just critiquing yourself of how you're doing and how your posture is, all the things. And but girls, not only my friends, but other girls in the classroom and myself included, would make comments like, "Oh, I'm not muscly enough," or "I hate my belly pooch," or "My arms flab," or "My boobs are too small," or "I got to get rid of my love handles." Even things like, "Oh, I wish I looked like her." Um, and again, those experiences, those comments that even I would make took me back to the way that I felt when I was a 7-year-old and when I was in 4th grade. So now my friend group, I had a couple friends who dealt with eating disorders, and I didn't realize it until later in my high school career. But my friends, had a little tickle in my throat. My friends and I would like barely go out to eat in high school. If we did, we would go to like a healthy food place, which was good. But I do not ever remember a time where my friends and I just went and got like burgers and fries. Like that was not a thing for my friend group. Because we didn't like the calories. We're like, that is too many calories. Let's just stick to our healthy foods that aren't going to give us the extra calories. And I feel like most of the time for like lunch, we would go to one of my friends' houses and we would eat like carrots and hummus or like chips and salsa, but like healthy chips, and salsa. Um, and so I felt like looking back, I was like, that's kind of odd. I feel like most teenagers like go to McDonald's all the time. And we would go get froyo instead of ice cream because froyo was less calories than ice cream. Um, so it was just like different things like that I didn't realize until later um, that we would do. And it's kind of odd that we just did that. Now another thing in high school, some of my friends and boys would call me Thunder Thighs. And when people would call me Thunder Thighs, I got that pit in my stomach again and felt like I could just break down at any point. I didn't know how to handle that emotion that I was feeling when people would call me Thunder Thighs. And I hated it. I hated that nickname. And my friends would be like, "Oh, Hannah, I just love your thighs. Like they're so good. I want thighs like yours, yada yada." Um and then they would make comments about their body and like negative comments and be like, "Oh, I need to lose weight. I wish I was skinnier," and all these different things. And I remember this certain experience when I was in high school. We went to one of my friend's house and we were hot tubbing, and one of my friends was talking negatively about her body, and she was like, "Oh, I just wish I was skinnier and I looked this way," and all these different things. And I just looked at her and I was like, if you think you're fat, what do you think about me? Because I was like, you are skinnier than I am, and you're in better shape than I am. And I was like, I've got these thunder thighs. Like, what makes, like, how do you view me if you view yourself that way? And she's like, no, no, Hannah, like, your body is amazing, but like, for me, I need to lose weight and I need to do this. And I was just like, I was so confused. I was like, how does that work? Like, because I was like, I am like thicker than you are, and you like are talking negative. I just could not comprehend it. Um, and so my body didn't know how to handle this. And so because my body didn't know how to handle it, I had these protector parts that came into play when these pathways like triggered these emotions again, right? Um, and so because my body had to react in some way, it was just trying to protect me from feeling those feelings that I was feeling. Um, and so I began to consistently not eat. And I would go to school, I wouldn't eat breakfast, and then I'd go to school, and then I'd maybe have some like carrots and hummus, and then I'd come home from like my friend's house or from school, and I'd eat like a cookie or like a piece of chocolate. I love chocolate, you guys. It is so good. So I was like, I gotta keep my chocolate. And so I'd have like a Kit Kat or something. And then dinner time would roll around, and I'd either go with my friends, and then with them, I'd be like, oh, I already ate. Or I would stay at home, and my family would be like, okay, time for dinner. And I'm like, oh, I'm not hungry. And they're like, what? Like, you haven't really eaten much today. I'm like, oh, but like, I had like a Kit Kat earlier. I'm fine. Like, really, I'm not hungry. Um, and I would keep track of my weight. I had a note in my phone of my weight, and I would have a new goal every week for the weight that I wanted to be at the end of the week. And if I didn't reach that goal, I would punish myself in eating less throughout the following week. And I kept track of everything that I ate. I had a different note in my phone that kept track of the food that I ate, the day that it was, the time that it was, like everything. How many calories it was, and if I had like so many calories and it was like too much, then the next day I just would have less. I would have one Kit Kat instead of 2 Kit Kats or something. And I began to lose weight very, very rapidly. And I remember I went to church one Sunday and I had a young woman's leader. She came up to me. She was like, "Oh my goodness, Hannah, you look so good. You have lost so much weight and you look amazing." And that for me reiterated the fact that what I was doing was okay. That not eating and exercising too hard was okay because I was losing weight and that I needed to keep doing it. That young woman's leader, in my eyes, was telling me that I look better now than I did before. She was validating the negative coping mechanisms that I had created. And so I was like, all right, bet, I'm going to keep doing it. And so I did. Team, we do not see the impact that our comments have on other people. Now the intent versus the impact may not always be the same. That young woman's leader had good intent with telling me that I looked amazing, that I had lost weight, that I looked so good. And I was like, all right, bet, like I'm gonna keep doing it. I didn't realize it at the time. But the outcome that it had on me was a negative one. So even though she had a positive intent, it was not the most positive outcome. It really is the little things that nobody thinks about, but everybody talks about, that create unhealthy relationships with food and body at a young age for everyone. But there is hope to overcome that. And that hope comes from Jesus Christ. And there is hope to overcome these challenges, and there are different things that we can implement into our daily lives that can assist ourselves and others to have a positive, healthy food and body image. And that hope comes from Jesus Christ. Now these little things that we can do to change is the way you talk about your body. Is it positive? Is the way you talk about your relationship with food, is that positive? Is the way you talk about your exercise, is that positive? Not only if you talk about it negatively, you're bringing yourself down, but also others hear you and they pay attention to you and what you're saying. Now, team, I was talking to my mom about this. Mom Alicia, love that lady. She literally is so wise. And so I was talking to her, and these little experiences that happened when I was young that led to me having an eating disorder. And I was like, what things in your life did you change that helped you have a better self-image and a better relationship with food that then impacted me? Because when she started to change, she noticed that I started to change the way I talked about and felt about my body and food. And so I asked Mom Alicia this, and she was like, one thing that I realized was that I could not change without utilizing the atonement of Jesus Christ. It was only through him that she was able to make those changes and come to that point of change where she could forgive herself for how she has treated her body and forgive herself for things that she had said and done that had a negative impact on others about their body. And she's like, one of the biggest things as I went through this change and utilized the atonement was how I talked about my body. She's like, I realized how cool my body is and how great a gift it is from God. She's like, I realized we are created in God's image, and that's literally why we're here, is to receive bodies. And she's like, and I can't disrespect that. I have to take care of it in order to become like him. And she's like, and I learned to love my body for what it was and what it is and what it does for me and how it can heal me and how it can help me move and grow. I was talking with my sister the other day and she's like, bodies are so cool. Kara's like, she's like, my body can just like do this. Like my brain just like tells my body to do that. And I was like, what is going on? Like, she's like, bodies are so cool. And they're so important. They really are so cool. We can learn so much and we are able to do everything that we are able to do because of our bodies. And my mom Alicia came to the realization of this. And she's like, another thing that I noticed that I did is she's like, I would change what I would tell people. She's like, if I noticed that someone had lost weight, she's like, I wouldn't tell that to them. She's like, I would tell them, hey, you look so healthy. Or, yo, your skin is glowing. You look so happy. Just different things like that that are so positive that don't encourage negative outcomes or negative coping mechanisms that you don't know if they're dealing with or not. And she's like, not only did changing the way I talked to others about their bodies have a positive impact on me, but I noticed that it had a positive impact on them. They had a better reaction when I told them that they looked so healthy instead of being like, hey, you lost weight. She's like, the look on their face, just, I could tell a difference with the way that I talked about their bodies. Now, team, I just want to reiterate the fact that Jesus is the only way that Mama Alicia was able to heal and that I was able to heal. It's been a long journey. But I have come to the realization that my worth does not come from what others think of me. My worth and who I am is solely dependent on God. I have been able to view my body in ways that I never, ever thought possible because of Jesus Christ. As I have turned to him and as I have changed through him and as I have learned to love me through his eyes, I have had a better positive self-image and a better food. I've had a better relationship with food, and it has been amazing to see. And although I'm not perfect at it, and it is still so hard. Like, there are definitely times where I look at others and I'm like, man, if only I had that body, or man, if only I could eat that healthy, but I love ice cream too much. Like, it is still hard, and it is something that we are always going to struggle with. But even though I'm always going to struggle with it, I know that I can come out on top because of Jesus. As I have him as my partner, and as I have him on my team, I will rise above these challenges that I am facing. And I know that you will too. So, I'm going to give y'all a call to action, a call to change. So what little things can you change in your life over the next few weeks that will create a positive self-image? Not only for yourself, but things that you can do to set an example of a positive self-image for others, because I promise you people are watching. They're watching you and what you're doing, and you can have an impact on them whether you realize it or not. So that's your call to action over the next few weeks. And then again, we're just going to end with the questions, the good old questions that we love. What doors have closed recently in your life that has actually turned out to be a blessing? And in what ways can you invite change and growth into your life over the next few weeks? I love y'all and appreciate the support. And I believe in you too. Like, you guys so got this. Go and continue to change the world. And I hope you take that call to action to heart. Anyway, we'll see y'all next time. Bye, team. Thank you, team, for joining me today. Remember to look for opportunities where you can grow and change. You are loved, you are valued, and you belong.